And that's it. Hi, it's me, Andres. Since I'm a sellout YouTuber, here I am. At least you know when a video is sponsored. But remember, we're always honest here. So I've already had my coffee. Time to get to work. Come on, let's go check out this Multistrada. Here it is. Now, like a true YouTuber, I can stand here and read out the technical specs. And the first thing, a 90-degree V4 engine. And now the basic question is, did the people who bought the 1260 model, for example, the Gran Turismo, the latest version, hit the jackpot or not? And I'll explain why right away. On the one hand, it's good, because I've mentioned many times that, in my opinion, the best riding Multistrada so far was the Multistrada Enduro. That's because it came standard with a 19-inch rear wheel, a slightly stiffer swingarm, so you could also ride off-road, and it had a large fuel tank. Thanks to all that, in my view, was a more well-rounded, if I can use that word, touring motorcycle. And unfortunately, my wish spoken out loud has come true. Because just as I once said that this should be the base Multistrada and the S version should be an extra, now the base Multistrada is basically like the Multistrada Enduro. We can no longer buy a motorcycle with 17-inch wheels at the front and back and a single-sided swingarm, which was kind of a signature feature. Now, every Multistrada has a 19-inch front wheel and a double-sided swingarm, which allows it to be more capable off-road. Is that good or bad? From my perspective, it's a big saving, no matter how you look at IT in the homologation process. Sorry, that's just the way things are. All our questions will be answered during the first test rides, because honestly, I don't believe for a second that this motorcycle won't ride better than the two-cylinder Multistrada. So in my opinion, both sides win. Those who have the two-cylinder model will still enjoy it for a long time to come. Their value shouldn't really drop. And for those who want the newest, most advanced, best performing motorcycle, go ahead. There will be the V4, the engine. It's called the Gran Turismo. And now, attention, another blow for Ducatisti. The engine doesn't have a desmodromic system, meaning it just uses regular springs instead of those special arms that push and open the valves. So what exactly does this truly signify for an average user who isn't particularly or deeply attached to, let's say, established historical traditions or long-standing customs? It means that this motorcycle can go many more kilometers between service intervals, because the desmodromic timing system, while it's super cool, allows for great performance and gives the motorcycle its distinctive sound. It also needs to be serviced much more often, with clearances checked and maintained regularly. And here, for the first time, we check the engine. In other words, the valve is after 60,000 kilometers. Considering the number of kilometers I, for example, cover on tours, or the average motorcyclist does, we'll probably never even have to check those valves during our time owning the bike. Plus, that's what I think. What next? As for the regular performance, it's 170 horsepower instead of 160. Yeah, was it 160? It was 160. No one answered me. 127 Newton meters or newtons. I think that's a bit less, but that's obvious because there are 4 cylinders, not just 2. One thing's for sure. This engine will be much smoother when it comes to delivering power. In those recent two-cylinder Multistradas, it actually wasn't bad anymore. That motorcycle was quite civilized at low revs, but civilized for such a huge V-twin. Still, at the very lowest revs, this motorcycle tended to chug along a bit, to jerking slightly. We had to make sure it was running at its best. It simply rode best from 3000 RPM and up. Here, that problem won't exist. It will definitely be much, much, much smoother. Funny things about the engine, for example, not just the engineer, the little wings, which in Ducati and many other motorcycles are usually there to provide downforce, but here they're meant to cool the rider better, and these particular wings are meant to cool the engine better. Because the question is whether it will get as hot as the previous one, or maybe, fortunately, less so. Maybe thanks to the fact that there are more cylinders and a more advanced cooling system, it won't be such a disaster. Because anyone who has ridden a Multistrada, especially the Enduro, knows that on a hot day, it's just one big nightmare. Another thing that stirs up controversy, although I think it doesn't even cause controversy anymore, because it was a bit of a shock at first, but now everyone seems to be slowly coming to terms with it. Something that looks ugly, but I think will actually be quite practical, the radar. There's one at the front and one at the back. For now, it's really only used for operating the adaptive cruise control. So you set the desired distance from the vehicle ahead, and the motorcycle will follow either closer or farther away. If someone brakes in front of you, the motorcycle will brake automatically. Most importantly, there is no emergency braking system like in cars, because that would be a disaster. Since we know that on a motorcycle, it's much easier to overtake something. I mean, not overtake, but rather avoid it and not necessarily brake. Generally, there shouldn't be any problems with braking. After all, these are Brembo's dilemma brakes. So, you know, things like brakes and suspension are topics I'm confident about. As for the Multistrada, since the suspension is also semi-active, I haven't noticed any significant difference from the previous ones. It will definitely be. It will be fantastic because it's a semi-active system, which, well, all manufacturers have it now, and they finally refined it to the point where you really don't even feel it working on the motorcycle. You just get the impression that the bike is always perfectly in tune with the asphalt. Stable, soft, sometimes stiffer when needed. When you're riding faster and the asphalt is smooth, the gauges are also new. We can't show them now because we were playing around with them earlier and drained the battery, sorry. So if you buy Multistrada and keep it in your garage, remember not to overdo it with playing around with the gauges, just to show your friends in the garage how everything works. They're cool, new, have better resolution, and most importantly, they can now display things like navigation, and that's that. There's something here. Come on, I'll show you. This, the storage compartment, which you can't really open in the spot meant for it because you'll break your finger. The little lock is just really strong. But it's a phone compartment, which is something we lost in the KTM 990 many years ago. Everyone who knew about this compartment knew it was the best storage you could have on a motorcycle. Because I'm not just talking about a phone, you know, there's a charging socket, but really everything, the remote for the gate, handy items, documents, whatever we need. You can keep your payment card here, and then if you put your phone in here, you can, well, it doesn't have to be here, it could be in your pocket, but here it will charge. You can seamlessly cast your navigation route directly from the Ducati app onto the motorcycle's display screen. The navigation system, what's it called, Synergic, provides a clear and integrated experience for your rides. CGIC. CGIC is what the navigation is apparently called. Apparently it works. Here, in a strange, funny place, is the seat heating for the passenger. And that's it. And here, come on, I'll show you the second one. The second radar, which in my opinion is even more important than the front one, because it activates the warning lights mounted here in the mirrors if there's something in your blind spot. When I ride a motorcycle, I've already gotten used to the fact that whenever I change lanes, I always have to turn my head a bit to check if there's anything in the blind spot. But here we'll have these indicator lights. In my opinion, that's a really, really, really cool solution. What else can I say? I can talk about the ACRAP, which is nice to have, but it doesn't sound at all. Because the new emission standard as well, not just emissions, but also noise and everything else mean that the ACRAP looks really good. It's lighter than a traditional exhaust, but don't expect any spectacular sound from it. To be a YouTuber on this subject, I must say that the tank has 22 liters. That one was 24, right? The Enduro held 24 liters, exactly, and in SC he was 18. 19? Well, you see, that's a hell of a balance. The sad part is that we can only order the motorcycle with one set of wheels. I mean, well, the wheels can be different. They can be aluminum or spoked if we're going to ride more off-road, but we can't buy knobby tires right away. And anyway, people usually buy knobby tires later. Well, I don't know actually. Well, everyone buys what they want. So either way, we buy the bike with these tires and have to get the knobby one separately. What's important is that on the previous model, the turn signals were here. Handguards are such that no matter what kind they are, on a heavy motorcycle like this, if your bike tips over even just a parking lot drop, whatever it is, no matter what the handguards are made of, heavy bikes that weigh well over 200 kilograms like this one, all adventure bikes, these handguards usually give in. And here the problem was that if the handguard broke, it was immediately damaged as well. Well, maybe not damaged, but the issue was that the turn signal was here. Now the turn signal is here, quick and easy. So if we're somewhere, I don't know, far away on a trip, and we take a spill or the motorcycle gets overloaded and it breaks, we can just unscrew both handguards here, and the bike still has turn signals. It really doesn't affect anything. The windshield is adjustable, just as it should be. Not some silly ideas, because some manufacturers come up with things like, let's make a windshield that you have to adjust with both hands so that people don't mess with it while riding, and instead have to stop and set it the way they need. Well, I won't outright say it's stupid, because that's not nice, but it's an unreasonable approach, because people will still try to adjust the windshield while riding, so it ends up with them letting go of both hands and grabbing the windshield. So here, it's just a simple, straightforward system, and that's it. Moving on to the scramblers, let's go over here. Look, the last one, the only one, apparently someone withdrew the deposit, so it's possible that this is the last monster with a trellis frame, a new one you can buy in Poland. I understand that many people are heartbroken because the new monster will have an aluminum frame, still a twin-cylinder engine, but that trellis frame was the foundation, honestly. I also like this one more, but I believe the new monster will ride much, much better. It probably won't be here until April or May. We'll see, we'll let you know, maybe we'll come to see it in person, but there were some wild numbers when it comes to weight reduction, 17 kilograms. So, well, classic monster versus modern monster, that's how it's going to look. Besides that, the Diavel is still at the showroom. There are also new paint schemes for this year. And if you come here now, the classic Diavel. Yeah. The Diavel Lamborghini is no longer available for purchase. There were, I don't know, six or so for Poland, 600 for the whole world. The motorcycle was extremely expensive, costing 150,000 zlotys. In reality, it was just a regular Diavel, only with different rims and some carbon fiber accents. All of them just went poof, they're gone. A dozen or so people, or maybe even several dozen, because I know that several people in every showroom ask about buying the Lamborghini. They're gone. They're simply not available. So there are the classic Diavels. There are people who ride the Diavel and simply don't want any other motorcycle. In a way, I understand that. Let's move on. We just had a discussion a moment ago that it would be best if the Desert Sled had a 1100 engine. I don't agree with that, because in my opinion, the Desert Sled as it is sufficient, and the whole presentation around the Scramblers is basically that they meet the new Euro 5 standards and have new paint jobs. And honestly, we don't need much more in life, because Scramblers are just like with many other manufacturers. The Heritage line consists of those motorcycles that, in fact, are the most enjoyable for us, the editors, to ride. Because the more we ride motorcycles, the more we appreciate simplicity. And that's exactly what this motorcycle is. You've got a wheel in the front, a wheel in the back, and the engine right here. You've got a metal frame that's simple, tubular, trellis style, just like in Ducati, and an air and oil-cooled engine, obviously. And of course, there's ABS, some other features, and suspension adjustment with screws. That's actually quite a lot for a motorcycle, because, for example, you have adjustability and ABS, that's it. You don't need anything more. The rest is up to us. So we just ride and enjoy all of it. The Desert Sled is honestly one of my favorite motorcycles. And for many other people too. Unfortunately, it's quite tall, so it often turns out in practice that not everyone can ride it. For example, because their feet can't reach the ground. But when it comes to the riding experience, it's great, absolutely fantastic. I dream that the next Desert Sled would be a bit lighter, because, exactly. It weighs 193 kilograms dry, and it's theoretically a motorcycle meant more for off-road riding. Well, as long as you don't fall over, it's okay, but it's worth checking out the different versions of the new Scramblers, because, you know, first you buy the motorcycle, and only then do you start playing around with the little gadgets, you know, like motorcycle modeling. But since we're already here, come on, I'll show you some others as well. What's cool here, what's worth checking out, but honestly, there's really just one that's worth it the most. Can you get through here? Will you fit? Overall, when it comes to what's worth it, this one is definitely the most worth it. The Streetfighter, Mariusz, aka Smok Rakowski, is already obsessed with this motorcycle. He's just obsessed with it now. And I don't blame him, because this is a machine. Smoku is someone who rides motorcycles. He enjoys riding them, but he doesn't consider himself any kind of motorcycle master. He goes to the track from time to time, but he's also aware that he's not going to be breaking lap records there, nor is he going to be racing others. He just wants to go and have fun with it. And this motorcycle, I've already said this, and I think I've written it too in my opinion, It's one of the best motorcycles Ducati has ever made because it's got the V4 engine from the Panigale, the frame from the Panigale, which means this bike is very flexible, very nimble, and it's really easy to turn. It has semi-active suspension, the S version does. This one has regular adjustable suspension, but nobody buys it because it's too cheap, obviously. The semi-active suspension is tuned in such a way that this motorcycle is incredibly comfortable on the street. It really rides like an old couch. If you set it to the soft mode, up to 6,000 RPM, it's super smooth. I expect the Multistrada will be the same way. Then it starts to get wild. And if you go over 10,000 RPM, it's like the end of the world. It goes so hard, it's just brutal and absolute slaughterhouse, the way this motorcycle rides. After all, it has 208 horsepower. I had to check, you see, because I never remember those specs. Because it's not about what it says on paper, it's about whether when you do this, it actually does that. And it does that all the time, and supposedly it has those little wings, but they don't help at all because it still keeps doing that constantly. World-class mastery. I rode this motorcycle in Poznan, and I had no problem overtaking sport bikes, even on the straightaways. It's an absolute beast. So it's not just a beast, but also a bear. When you want a bear, and when you want, it's a beast. So come play around with the Multistrada and buy yourself a Streetfighter. You can put a fairing on it too, make it more touring friendly. Panniers, all that stuff. No, but seriously, objectively speaking, those Ducatis were really cool when they were twins. Super, super, bravo, bravo, bravo. But then the Panigale V4 showed that the real bravo, bravo, bravo was yet to come. And now we need something for what's next. Times are changing. We have to move forward. We need more cylinders. And step by step, Ducatis that have more cylinders, the ones with V4 instead of V2, prove to us that this is the right direction. At least that's what I think. You might think differently, so feel free to criticize Ducati's new ideas, or if you want to do it in person, just drop by Liberty Motors. There are friendly people there who will gladly take it all to their face. Best regards. Bye.